of the Father. We pray that He will guide us our words as we speak. So today we are going to discuss one Quran versus many Qur'ans. Throughout centuries, we hear from Muslims the claim is there is only one Quran. Quran is a book which given to from Allah to Angel Gabriel, which passed to the Muhammad and he passed to the people. So when we look at the claims, here's the basic claims we hear from Muslims. You all know Ahmed Didat?
No. Yes.
Sad that there are Muslims who don't know. He died, thanks God. So he's one of the Muslim polemists, has thousands of followers. He makes a claim that there is only one Quran and throughout centuries, and we read the Quran which is given to Muhammad and not even a dot changed. And then we've got Zakir Naik, disciples of Ahmed Didat. He makes the same claim. There is only one Quran, not even a dot, not even a verse, not even a word changed in that Quran. And then of course, we've got Mansur Ahmed, scholar of Speaker's Corner. When Muslims struggle to answer the questions, they would go to Mansur. He makes the same claim. He said, I stand here and confirm that not even a dot changed from that Quran. That is from YouTube of Muslims. So the claim is there is only one Quran and not even a dot change. I'm gonna make a case that actually that's not true. That wasn't the case at the time of Muhammad. That wasn't the case from caliphs to 14th century, even 21st century, and that is not the case in the 21st century. So, remember, the claim is there is only one Quran. It is perfect, not even a dot change from that Quran. First, we go to the time of Muhammad. We look at the Islamic tradition and we see at the time of Muhammad, according to Sahih Bukhari, that actually Quran is revealed in different ways. Quran is revealed in different ways. Surah 1 to Surah 114, it is revealed in different ways. We read the story of Hisham and we read the story of Umar. We see those differences were very big deal, that they wanted to grab each other. And then we go back to the another hadith. We look at actually best of the reciters, Ubay bin Ka'b. He has the same occasion. He hears the surah, which is very different than what he know. They all go to Muhammad and Muhammad says, yes, Quran is revealed in many ways, in 7 different ways. But what happens is, those differences are given into the same tribe as different ways. So they are not the we don't know what are they, whatever they are different given to the same tribe. We look at the Islamic tradition and then we see actually those differences were given because Muslims were not capable to recite the Quran only one way. Therefore Allah steps in. After a big deal, Allah gives the Quran in many different ways. And then from that, we just saw at the time of Muhammad, there was not only one Quran. Even the Ahmed Didat, even the Zakir Naik, even Mansur says there was only one Quran, but Muhammad, Prophet of Islam, discredits them. Quran is not only one. We move from Muhammad to time of the caliphs, and then we see actually at the time of caliphs, there wasn't only one Quran. First Quran has been compiled because recitation, oral tradition was not reliable. Therefore, they compiled the first Quran. Second Quran has been compiled because first Quran wasn't perfect, and also people were calling each other unbelievers in the war. As the second Quran compiled, when we look at all of it, we see actually as the Quran is written changed. Quran has been corrupted from time of Muhammad to time of Uthman, and there was not one perfect Quran. From Uthman, we look at the Islamic tradition and then we see actually people are talking about lots of different Qurans. In 800s, people are gathering 25 different Arabic Qurans. In 10th century, there are 50 different Qurans. In again 800s, there are 22 different Qurans has been named. In 10th century, there are 26 different Arabic Qurans has been named. And today, you cannot be surprised that when I make a claim that I hold in my possession more than one Arabic Quran. In my possession, I've got 31 different Arabic Qurans. I say different Arabic Qurans because I look at the Quran, which Muslims are translating today. The Quran I hold in my possessions are 31 of them and different from this one. And when I say different, I'm saying actually when you say not even a dot changed, dot has been changed. When I say different, when you say not even a word change, I'm saying word change. Quran compares many textual variations and they are identified and named as different Qurans. Let me unpack what I mean with the textual variations. If I am writing a letter to someone and then person B comes and copies that letter and then makes a mistake in a letter, in a word, or even in a sentence, that means that is the variation. So when we look at the Arabic Quran, how does this implies? In here, I've got Samarkand manuscripts. If you look at carefully, you will see alifs, which are edited in a red color form. It is in red color form in this page. This is E20. In this page, you've got 16 alifs. So those alifs are the textual variations. They are the differences. Or you look at the Topkapi manuscripts. You see a word. They insert the word into the Quran. In here we've got Paris manuscripts again. The word has been inserted. This is a consonantal text. They inserted the consonantal letters. So when you put all those things together, we see historically, Islamic tradition tells us Quranic manuscripts are not reliable and there are thousands of variations. Yet when we look at my 31 different Arabic Qurans, I am sure you are not amazed that I've got 31 different Arabic Qurans. It contains 56,664 variations and they are all named in the different Arabic Qurans. So,
10 seconds.
Even the Muslims in 21st century tells us there is one Quran, Muhammad and Caliphs and history disagree with that.
So one second. Okay.
Can you remind me in 5 and last 2?
I'll
Yes.
remind you all the way through pretty much,
I think
yeah?
that's the I'll do a few, yeah? 3, 2, 1.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. So it's quite interesting to hear Hatun making a claim which we will, in the process of this discussion, will learn that this is not the reality. So I begin in the name of Allah, the one and only God, who is the reality of our existence. The God of Moses, the God of Jesus, God of Muhammad, peace be upon them all, who has favored mankind by sending his final book, the Qur'an, as a guidance and taken its role himself to protect it from corruption. He's made it into a book that is inimitable, a book that cannot be matched or something that can be imitated as a miracle. and also to facilitate it to be read and recited and memorized by people easily, all kinds of people, especially then those who are unlettered, those who did not know how to read or write, the young, the old, the children, the women, all of those people, all age groups. So Allah revealed this Qur'an in stages, not all of it in one go, but over a period of 23 years. With His infinite wisdom, He guided the initial recipients with revelation, that some of which, given the nature of the time and place, were substituted with other revelations, a concept known as nasikh and mansur, which we will go through in bit more detail later on. Or some of the ayat, He caused them to be forgotten. But what is important to remember is that the revelation that He caused it to be forgotten, they were substituted or revealed which are better or equal at least. And the final form that was left is what we call the Qur'an that the Prophet ﷺ left to us for the posterity. The final Qur'an that the Prophet left is what is between our hands. The Qur'an, interestingly, we should know, it was written down during the time of the Prophet. The Qur'an attests to that. And its verses were memorized as well, perfectly. The Qur'an was written down and memorized, and the final form was written down. So there was no question of the Qur'an to be in one bound book, because the Qur'an was constantly being revealed as the Prophet was receiving the revelation. When the Prophet passed away, there was even no need yet to compile a book, because the companions had the Qur'an with them. But a crisis happened. Crises happened in the Muslim world, where in the Battle of Yamama, a lot of Muslims were being martyred. So a crisis, because of this, it was felt the necessary need, not a bid'ah, it is a good bid'ah, as we know. Bid'ah is of different kinds. In this case, is a good, necessary innovation to compile the Qur'an in one mushaf. And it was done during the time of Abu Bakr by an official committee, by an official project where everyone was involved to bring the Qur'an from their material parchments, wherever they are written down, in bones or leaves or stones and so on. So the Qur'an was written down then. It was compiled and it was left. It was not necessary to circulate. Another crisis happened in the Muslim world, where Muslims in Azerbaijan, not knowing or having the etiquettes of reciting the Qur'an with the different ahruf, what was facilitated earlier on, because there were different age groups and unlettered people, they were reciting and saying, my recitation is better than yours. Then this news reached eventually to the Khalif, and the Khalif said, let us now make one standard version of the Qur'an, one official text, which will then be circulated among the community so that people can recite and take this as their standard form of this multi-form Qur'an. Why do I say multi-form? Because the Qur'an was revealed in 7 different ways of recitation. It is a well-known, well-transmitted mutawatir hadith that the Prophet said the Qur'an was revealed in 7 ahruf, which we can explain in more detail later on. So, when this Qur'an was compiled, it was done in a way so that these various forms of recitation could be accommodated within this Uthmanic graphic form, the Uthmanic rasm. So it was done. When there was a case where certain readings were not able to be accommodated, it was done within the provinces where the reading was prevalent, with the addition or omission of extra letter or even a word. This is our standard account from our Islamic traditions. So what he ordered, that once this was an official copy made, this was then circulated among with the companions to read this Qur'an, and an order placed so that all of the other non-official copies to be removed from circulations. even though there were some initially who were hesitant, but eventually all Muslims agreed collectively, yes, this is what we agree that this has been done, and we have no issue with this. Ali bin Abi Talib or Ibn Abdullah bin Masud, they all agreed to these decisions. This Quran then was the basis of learning and teaching, of the readings that were taught by the Prophet to the companions. The companions taught their successors, their students. They're called the Tabi'un. And they learned from them and they become famous, some of them, because of their very knowledge of the Quran. They established their readings during the time of Ibn Mujahid, also later. You had these readings now collectively agreed by the Muslim scholarship in the community that these are the 10 authentic mutawatir mass transmitted readings of the Quran, directly linked to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These readings, one thing to understand is this, that there was no difference between them in terms of the number of ayahs, whether there's an extra ayah, more or less, whether there's an extra surah, more or less. So all these 21 or 31 or whatever number of Qur'ans we are hearing, they had the same number of Qur'ans, same number of chapters. The ayats have been all the same, no extra ayah, no less ayah, they're all the same. Even the order of the surahs have been the same. So the Quran that we have today is what the Quran that the Prophet left behind in this multiform text, multiform recitation, through these readings by our companions and the Tabi'uns and the scholars of Islam, the Qurra al-Huffaz. So what our critic Hatun needs to do is this. Hatun, to demonstrate that there are more than one Quran, this is what she has to do. She has to avoid arguments based on faulty translation, inauthentic narrations, misunderstanding of our text, lack of comprehension of our text, cherry picking or selectively using our text while leaving the others, arguing with straw man or red herrings. So I would like to see some very honest, very academic discussions, evidence brought forth today to demonstrate your point about the Quran. You mentioned one thing about the Quran manuscripts. This is clearly something that I have already mentioned. Manuscripts will reflect the different readings. But don't forget, manuscripts can have scribal errors where they will be corrected. They will be corrected with any omissions or additions, but our preservation of the Quran is not only in writing. Unlike any other book that we see, our preservation is through the heart, memory to memory, that continues from the time of the Prophet to today, and it will continue until the end of the world. So the thing that we see is this: manuscripts of the Quran, clearly, some of them demonstrates that the Quran that we read today is exactly you can read in the manuscripts that we have found in various places in the world. And we will go through some of the examples of those manuscripts later. So I leave with this thought. In fact, I leave with some of the papers mentioning these points that Hatun needs to establish, and we get ticks off when she does that. Please circulate around few people.
Time's up. Yeah, he finished on time. Don't worry, look, 05. He actually finished 2 seconds early. So
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay? So, remember, the claim is there is...
So 1 second, let me just do this.
Sir, my time is right now.
No. I can start the time
I'll
again.
reset
Don't worry.
it, right? Reset.
That's very ugly thing you are doing right now.
Are you the invigilator?
So, here's the thing. The claim is there is only one perfect Quran, not even a dog changed. Even though Muslims are sending out handouts, that doesn't help. Remember, at the time of Muhammad, Quran it's not only written form, because you acknowledge there are the variations in the written form because it is written by human beings, and then you acknowledge the textual variations in the Quran. Thank you, that's helped with my point. So textual variations stands out as if a dot, if a letter, if a word, even if a sentence is edited in the Quranic manuscripts, which took place, and Mansur acknowledged that. So there are the verses at the time between after the death of Muhammad to Uthman, that we read from the Islamic tradition that people forgotten these verses. Here's the thing. Quran, according to Muslims, it is the eternal word of Allah. And Muhammad forgets certain verses and praise mankind for reminding him the verses. People are complaining there are the verses not in the Quran. And what happens is, that is the moment Allah steps in and then says, no, it's not you are forgetting the verses, I am sending something better or similar. What kind of creator? If he is going to send something similar, he already discrediting what he sent. That question the character of creator. Surah 2 verse 106, as it says, I will send something better, it clearly looks in the occasion when man needed help because they forgot the verses, Allah steps in. You talked about Quran to be perfect at the time of Muhammad. Actually, that wasn't the case. Ubay bin Ka'b, Umar, and Hisham, in different occasions, they are talking about this. The recitation is different, and Allah steps in as the recitation is different. Muhammad steps in. It's like he wants to break the fight. He says, no, Quran is revealed to me in different ways. So the question will stand, where is the 7 different ways of those Qurans? Where are those 7 different recitations that it caused to Umar and Hisham to start a fight? It caused Umar to have bad feeling towards Hisham. Where are those 7 different Qurans, 7 different ways of the Qurans, where Muhammad acknowledged? Where are those Qurans are written down in our hands? You said Muhammad knew what was written, Muhammad knew what was the Quran. Sadly, no. Muhammad never saw what the Zayd bin Thabit wrote it down. Muhammad never saw what the second Quran was written down. Muhammad never saw Ubay bin Ka'b's Quran. Muhammad never saw Ibn Masud's Quran. And sadly, Muhammad never saw the current Quran you are reciting, Hafs Quran. You talked about first Quran is compiled under the Uthman Abu Bakr. Can you just please clarify for us, why did early Caliph, and including the Zayd bin Thabit, secretary of Muhammad, committed the bid'ah as they compiled the Quran? Even if the recitation was so essential, if Quran is in the heart of man, if Quran for people to memorize, why did people saw only 70 Hafiz died in the Battle of Yamama, and they saw it was urgent for them to compile the Quran and practice the Buddha?
You've got 10 seconds.
No, my time is up.
Keep going with my time.
Sorry, one person is keeping the time. I think that was fine.
Just check that.
5, 3,
No, your time.
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Now, when you mentioned about the Quran has been changed to the dots, you mentioned a few people. You mentioned Ahmed Didat, Zakir Naik, you mentioned myself. If you have heard myself, which now I am doubting that you've heard, I've clarified the position. That when we talk about the dots not being changed at all, even to the dot, even to the sound, I am referring to the different readings that are transmitted to us. So when we talk about the reading of Hafs, for example, the Hafs reading anywhere in the world today, anywhere you go. This reading we know it's been preserved even to the dot, to the letter, to the vowels, to the sound. So what I will ask Hatun to do instead and challenge her, and this isn't on the paper, to provide 3 examples of differences between the Hafs readings anywhere in the world. 3 examples of difference between the Warsh readings anywhere in the world. So you have to provide that in your tick list that I've given. So this is what I mean, the readings. As I've explained already, the Quran is a multi-form text. This means the Quran is clearly being recited for ease of recitation and reading in a way that has certain variations divinely sanctioned. For example, what we mentioned about Umar bin al-Khattab and Hisham bin Hakim. They were disagreeing about Surah number 25. He heard this particular companion, Umar, heard reciting this surah, and he recognized it was Surah Al-Furqan. But he recognized that he was reciting in a way that the Prophet taught him differently. He was about to grab him. Now this exercise we will do in another section. What exactly are the differences within Surah number 25 that shows the variations within the Ahraf? Okay, we will do that in another section. Now you talk about how the Quran was not perfect during the time of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. No, the Quran has always been taught to the companions. Every companion learned the Quran from the Prophet. Whatever they learned was the Quran, and this is what they transmitted. So I don't know what you mean by a perfect Quran. You have to bring me another Quran that the Prophet you think has taught or haven't taught. Umar and Ubay and so on, they all taught and agreed that this is the Quran that the Prophet taught them. It is within their tradition, their teaching, that we receive the Quran. Ubay bin Ka'b and Abdullah bin Mas'ud, we learn the Quran today from them. So I'm not sure what you're talking about. About the bid'ah, it was a necessary requirement. This kind of things are not something that is totally forbidden. You get the idea that bid'ah means a forbidden thing. No, bid'ah doesn't mean forbidden. This is a necessary requirement because of the issue, the crisis that happened in the Islamic world. You mentioned about the Prophet forgot the verses. No, as a human being, some people can forget. This verse that the Prophet forgot, of course, it just had a lapse in memory, that's all. So many other companions memorized it. So many companions had got it written down. It didn't disappear from the existence, so I'm not sure what you're talking about. It was all there, it was a lapse of memory only. Now, I did not say the variations in the manuscripts are due to human error. You totally misquote what I just said. I said, scribal errors can happen in the manuscripts, but this is not why we have variations. The variations Uthman did was because of the ahraf. Not all of the readings could be accommodated in one graphic form. That's why the Mus'haf that he sent to Basra or Kufa or Medina, they had certain differences in letters or prepositions. Now you talk about Samarkand Quran, how the alifs are added. This is orthography. It's the same word. How you recite it. Originally the Quran was written by people who had no standard way of writing the Quran. The Arabs didn't have any book. Quran was the first book in the Arabic language. There was no codified grammar. Quran came with this writing to establish what the grammar should look like. Yep. The top copy, again, just a scribal insertion. So you haven't shown me anything there's a variation rather than this. Now, you talked about there are 56,000 differences. I would like to see some of them today. I would like to examine them. Yeah. Yeah. And the issues about the Quran recitation was not reliable, that's not true. The recitation was perfectly reliable. Continues till today.
Thank you.
The problem is that you just said we're Arabic now.
Here's the problem. Claim is there is one perfect Quran, not even a dot change. 2017, I've got more than one Arabic Quran and dots have been changed. Here's the definition for the textual variations. Even though we dot, every letter, every word edited in that letter will be the textual variations. I am amazed. 2017 at Speaker's Corner, Mansur, you stand here and then you say, no, that's not a textual variation, that's the scribal errors. Not, sir, that's a textual variations. That's a textual variations. Check the Oxford Dictionary for that. Sorry, I don't have the Oxford Dictionary with me. So, you said, yes, Muhammad was only human. Of course he have forgotten. Guys, Muhammad is not only human for you. Muhammad is the man Allah trusted and gave his last revelation. He's not only human. You must obey Allah. You must obey Muhammad. Muhammad is the man Allah picked and gave his revelation. Yet it is the same Muhammad, lack of recitation. It is the same Muhammad fails to remember the revelation Allah gave it to him. Remember, Muhammad never saw what Abu Bakr compiled. Muhammad never saw what is compiled under the Uthman. Muhammad never saw what Uthman ordered to be burned. Muhammad never saw what is the Quran. The Quran you are reading, the Quran you are reciting at the mosques. Muhammad never saw this Quran. Muhammad never saw that Quran.
We're in trouble, mate. Trouble.
So, you talked about when you made a claim that not even though they changed, you are talking about the Hafs Quran, you are talking about the Warsh Quran, you are talking about the Al-Bazi Quran. No, sir, that cannot be the case. When you say not even the Quran, don't change in the Quran, you are talking about the Quran, you must be talking about the Quran which is revealed to Muhammad by an angel Gabriel. That is the same Quran. That is the same Quran Umar and Hisham argued about. That is the same Quran Muhammad struck. You're okay? Yeah. That is the same Quran that Ubay bin Ka'b got struck on his chest because he had a doubt regarding the revelation. That is the same Quran. That is the same Quran where first caliphs practiced the Buddha and then compiled. That is the same Quran when the 70 Hafiz dies in the Battle of Yamama. Muslim world suddenly start. Oh my God, what are we gonna do? People are dying. We are going to lose the Quran. That is the same Quran Uthman ordered to be burned. So that is the Quran. Allah, your creator, trusted Muhammad, the man who's supposed to be the best example to mankind and last prophet that gave the Quran, yet it is the Muhammad who forgot the Quran. Muhammad who forgot the Quran. Of course, remember, amazing Allah steps in and then says, oh, it's not your forgetting. I am causing you to forget my eternal word. Quran is identified as the eternal word of Allah. So, from the first part, you have not responded to my questions. I would encourage you to respond to my question. What are the 7 different ways those Qurans have been revealed? Where are they? Where is the Quran which revealed to Muhammad and it is written down at the time of Muhammad? Where is this 114 verses? And you talked about... Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Time's up.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. You keep on talking about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam having a lapse of memory about one particular ayah, and you make a mountain out of a molehill. The Prophet immediately remembered. So did he. And how did he remember? Because someone else reminded him. So was it totally forgotten from existence? No. So the Quran did not disappear. The Quran was there. That's what he taught. It just had lots of memory, like as a human being would have. And the Quran, the Prophet then remembered. That's all. Out of this, I fail to understand how you can make a case that the Quran was totally lost. Because the Prophet remembered, and that's the end of the story. Now you talk about how the Prophet ﷺ with Hisham and Umar, he recited in 7 different modes. Well, let me tell you how the Quran was revealed in 7 ahruf, which clearly had differences. So when Umar recognized the Surah Furqan being recited, can I show me the time as you speak here? Being recited, he recognized he was reading slightly differently. Now how did he recognize it? Because slightly there are differences. If there were no variations, then how can he even recognize that it's different? So you keep misunderstanding this. I am not saying the differences of recitation in the manuscripts are scribal errors. Clearly not. What I'm saying, those examples that you've shown are scribal errors, but yes, our manuscripts show these 7 types of recitation. Surah Al-Furqan, for example now. Who knows very good recitation? Anyone from Muslims? Okay, I'm going to give you some examples because they're short of time and I'm going to continue. Now, there are differences with letter of the alphabet, markers on the same word, the words have the same meaning, but there's certain variation. Variations in words with a different meaning. Variations in the presence or omissions of a letter or a word. Variations in word order. These are the different types of modes of recitation that we can examine in our Islamic tradition, because the Prophet did not specify, and I'll tell you in my second section why the Prophet left this unspecified, what the ahruf actually meant. So when we read Surah Al-Furqan, let me start with first ayah. تبارك الذي نزل الفرقان على عبده ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. Those who read Hafs or his Hafs, they'll realize that's not how Hafs read it. Hafs read ليكون للعالمين نذيرا. And I read للعالمين نذيرا. It's a difference in tajweed.
Can you translate that to English?
Quran is in Arabic, recited in Arabic. So when...
Wait! Do you speak Arabic, Hatun?
When...
Or do you read it?
أو يلقي إليه كنز أو تكون له جنة يأكل منها. I read this in a different way than Hafs, because Hafs reads this as أو يلقى إليه كنز أو تكون له جنة يأكل منها. So I read نأكل instead of يأكل, different verb forms. وإذا ألقوا منها مكانا ضيقا مقرنين دعوا هنالك ثبورا. This is the Hafs reading. But if you read Bazzi reading, وإذا ألقوا منها مكانا ضيقا instead of ضيقا. Another example. ويوم تشقق السماء بالغمام ونزل الملائكة تنزيلا. This is how Hafs reads it. But how about this? ويوم تشقق السماء بالغمام وننزل الملائكة تنزيلا. See the difference? نزل and ننزل. ملائكة and ملائكة. Verb form different. Yeah? أم تحسب أن أكثرهم or أم تحسب أن تحسب or وهو الذي أرسل الرياح نشرا بين.
Your time is up.
Right?
Your time is up.
Exactly.
Your time is
We
up.
can carry on this example later on.
So, thank you for reciting something which I have no idea what was it.
Why not?
Because you don't know Arabic!
Because I don't know Arabic.
Be on the subject then!
Because I don't know Arabic.
Do you know Arabic?
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? So, isn't that amazing? I can see the attitude of Muslims. That is the beautiful attitude of Muslims. When a Christian woman stands and speaks, that's what you do, sir. So, here's the thing. I'm not debating with you right now. I'm talking to Mansur. Can start my time, please.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it is amazing that you recite 2 pages. You read it 2 pages for us.
Only 3 examples.
You read it 2 pages, 2 examples from Surah 25. Sadly, why are you so scared to translate that to English for us? Why are you scared to translate that to English for us so we can check it out what it is you are reading for us? If Allah cannot communicate with me in my language, that is shame on Allah. But here's the thing. Al-Bazi's Quran sadly was not exist at the time of Muhammad. Hafs Quran was not exist at the time of Muhammad. Those are entered into the Islamic world approximate 200 years after death of Muhammad. So even you can look at the readings, authorized readings today, and then you can tell me that those are how it is read, but you never know actually what was the Umar and what was the Hashim reciting, and Islamic world will never know that, because at the time of Muhammad there were different Qurans. Those differences, people wanted to grab each other. They were disturbing to those were disturbing to each other. So here's the thing. I'm gonna read something for you, Mansur. Can you please follow it up from the Quran? And dear lovely Muslims who are challenging my Arabic will help you out. So here's the alternative version. Here's the alternative version of the Surah 25, verse 1 and 2. I'm gonna read it English. You can just check it out. Remember, at the time of Muhammad, there was no dots. At the time of Muhammad, there was no dots. But even in the Constantinople letters, here have optional Surah 25 can be. Blessed is the one, if he wills, provides you better than that. Jannat with rivers flow beneath them, and he will make you places. Nayazikia is the one, if he persevere bad, bring your news of seed out of their luck, make marvel and victory favor to you. So that is the other option. But this option is not al-Bazi or any other reading. This is the option can be read as in the time of Muhammad, because they did not have the dots. They did not have the dots. So I'm just gonna take 1 minute. Because Muslims already start challenging my Arabic, and yet Mansur denied the definition for the textual variation, and he read it 3 things for us in Arabic. Let's just practice something. As I told you, I am not Arabic speaker, but let's see something. One of the many scripts which takes us back to time of Muhammad. Actually, not time of the Muhammad. It's in 8th century manuscripts does not have the dots. Sir, can you read it for us? Can you read it for us?
It's your time.
Okay, I want Mansur to read it this in his time.
Why don't you read it, Hatun?
I've got another writing from the Quran. I would love Mansur to read it and translate it for us. Here's another one. I'm gonna give it to you, sir. And then I've got another Arabic writing. I would love Mansur to read it and translate it for us to see, even though he recites the Quran for us, does he have any authority? And then I've got 4th writing. I would love Mansur to read it and translate it for us. And then we will continue. Sir, here are my 4 things. I'll give them to you in order.
Don't start.
No. You read that and no. You read that and I'm gonna give it to you. No. I want you to first read that and I'm gonna give it to you. Just read it. No. I'm gonna give it to you.
Come on.
Okay, stop.
Come on. Why are you kicking
Why are you not reading?
It's my time. Let me start. So now, the strawman argument is this. Instead of admitting and confessing that you don't know Arabic at all, you want to know.
said that already.
You want to now check my Arabic skills? Yes. No, that's not the point I'm making. What I'm making is this. What I'm establishing is when I read Surah Al-Furqan. Surah Al-Furqan was taught by the Prophet. Umar did not see a writing by Hisham while he was praying. He heard. This is a memorization text. So he heard, so I recited. Again, you heard what I recited. And I gave you examples of the differences that you can hear and observe between the different readings. I didn't make this up. This recitation came from what? From Bazzi, from Duri, from Khalaf, from Hafs, and so on. Why do I say this? Because look, we know the recitation that we received through successive transmission from Umar being one of the teacher companions. The recitation of Ibn Kathir, Abu Amr, Hamza and Kisai, they all go back to Umar bin al-Khattab. So I chose some of the recitation of Ibn Kathir, Susi, Duri, Hamza and Kisai and compared with Hafs. And you clearly saw the differences. If someone knew Hafs by heart and heard me reciting in those forms, you will say it's a mistake. Like Omar realized it was a mistake. So we established that when we talk about the ahraf, these were the differences even at the time of the Prophet ﷺ as sanctioned by the Prophet ﷺ. I could give more examples, but I think this is sufficient. You talk about translating. This is not the exercise. The exercise is to demonstrate what were the variations between the recitations, and I demonstrated that already. Now, you keep on saying how.
Translate.
Hafs and Bazzi did not exist at the time of the Prophet.
Translation.
You keep missing the point. Hafs, Warsh, Duri and Susi, all of those teachings, they are all traced back directly to the Prophet ﷺ. All of them. The community of the whole of the Muslims, they gathered together. Yes, we have a chain of transmission.
Go on, tell us.
Yes, we have. I will show you all the chains. We have this chains of transmission all the way from today going back to the Prophet in these transmissions. We have no doubt that what we read is what the Prophet ﷺ taught us. So what are you talking about, Hatun? You don't even know how the Qur'an has been transmitted to us. You need to learn about our sources. You keep on talking about dots and so on. I say, every single reading that we read today, they are preserved meticulously. I did not say that there are no variations between them. Umar said there were variations. Hisham said there were variations. These variations are what? Divinely sanctioned to facilitate the reading of the Quran. As I mentioned, this is what Allah has given us the privilege. Now, manuscripts that you want me to read, these manuscripts are precisely done in a dotless way so that a companion reader, a scholar, a reciter would go and teach the Quran, and they will hear the Quran and they will say, that's the way to read it. If you were to read it, you might read elephants in there and all this gibberish that you read, because you don't know what the context is. But when the Quran was read in this form and taught by the companions, then they know this is the way to read it. And that's how the Quran has always been taught to us. We don't have to worry about a skeletal text. Skeletal text without any dots. Scholars can read it. Those who have memorized can read it. And the scholars, the teachers, will tell us how to read it. So it's not about my checking your Arabic. I should check your Arabic.
Can you read it?
Right.
20 seconds.
20 seconds. Different Quran in the Prophet's lifetime? No. Prophet taught all of this oral recitation to the prophets. So there was one Quran in a multi-form recitation. Get this game.
You're done. Disappearing.
Okay?
Maybe someone else is going to take over here.
Yeah. Sir, I would love you to read this and then help us to know, help us that we know that you have authority in Arabic, that you can speak in Arabic, you can read it in Arabic, and you can understand Arabic, because you just give us the quotation from Surah 25. I told you I am not Arabic speaker, but I want you to show us that you are Arabic speaker and you understand this, sir. Can you please read it for us? Why are you so afraid to read it? We can stop the time. Stop the time.
No, carry on. It's your
No,
turn.
I want you to read it for us.
I want you to carry on.
Why are you so afraid to read that, sir? We are going to pause the time. I want you to read it. Can you pause the time? Can you read it for us? Okay, so a Muslim missionary at Speaker's Corner is so afraid to prove us that he knows Arabic, he understands Arabic. Can you please provide for us that we are confident that you know Arabic, you can speak Arabic, you understand Arabic, sir? This is my first page. Here is my second page. I would love you to read it. Let me give you the fourth page. Just a moment, sir. Just a moment. Can you read it for us?
Of course.
Okay. Can you read that for us and translate it for us? No, just a moment. Just a moment. Can you please read the underlined part of that for
So
us?
she's given me...
And translate it for us. Yeah.
She's given me a text with some words with ... How am I supposed to read it? Okay, I'll try. So it's an exercise of filling in the gaps.
Come on, please read.
وقضى ربك ألا تعبدوا إلا إياه وبالوالدين إحسانا أما يبلغن عندك الكبر أحدهما أو كلاهما فلا تقل لهما أف ولا تنهرهما وقل لهما قولا كريما.
Sir, can you translate it for us?
Yeah. And when your Lord decreed, don't worship anyone except Him. And
Can you please translate it us as you read it for? As you read it.
وقضى ربك. Look, I'm not an Arabic speaker. My Arabic is not that great.
Now you're saying that.
Now the debate.
Now you saying that.
Now the debate. Hang on. Now the debate has become not whether there's one Quran or 26 Quran, whether Mansur knows perfect Arabic. I never claimed I have scholarship in Arabic.
Sir, hold on. It's my turn.
No,
It was my turn.
don't pause.
It was my turn.
Let me finish.
No. I ask you just a moment. Only thing I want is, it's my turn. Only thing I want is to read the underlined part
I have.
and translate it as it is written down.
Okay, I'll do that. And when your Lord decreed, do not worship anyone except Him, and be dutiful, be kind to your parents. And when they reach, one of them or both of them, an old age, show them mercy. Okay? Yeah, show them mercy, and do not even say off to them. Do not even utter the word off, but say a word of generosity.
Let me take it back. Of course, Muslims will say Allah Akbar. Sadly, with great sadness, that is not the proper translation. With a great sadness, that is not the proper translation. Sir, can you please?
Show me the translation.
Show us proper translation. Show us. Don't worry, you'll see it. Don't worry.
Can you read this for us? Can you read?
Why are you pausing?
I haven't paused.
Good. Sorry.
Sir, can you read this for us?
Give me another one.
No, I want you to read that.
I will read what I can
No,
read
no.
properly.
Okay, so you cannot
I can
read this
read
one.
properly, I
It's
will
my
read
turn. It's my turn. So you cannot. Okay, a Muslim cannot read this Arabic. That is the Arabic at the time of Muhammad. Okay.
I said I cannot read
As if
properly.
it's my turn. Okay. Since when it is my turn,
Translate, please.
since when it is my turn, and Mansur steps into my turn, that directly gives me right to step and talk over when it is his turn.
No.
So,
That's not acceptable.
no, that's what you've done